There are moments in every life when the sky darkens without warning. One minute the world feels steady, predictable, almost gentle, and the next, winds rise, shadows gather, and everything you thought you understood feels suddenly fragile. Storms, both literal and spiritual, have a way of silencing certainty. They break the illusion of control, they shake the foundations we trusted, and they make us confront questions we'd rather avoid. But storms are not random interruptions. They are not divine accidents, nor are they signs that God has stepped away. What if the storm is loud, precisely because the lesson it carries is too important to whisper? What if the winds roar not to destroy you, but to awaken you? What if the thunder is not a threat, but a summons? When God wants to teach you something that will change the trajectory of your life, He often speaks through disruption, not comfort. A storm is heaven raising its voice not in anger, but in urgency. And the louder the storm, the deeper the truth it carries. The storm arrives when comfort becomes a cage. Humans are creatures of routine. Even when the routine is small, predictable, or unremarkable, we cling to it because it anchors us. But comfort has a quiet danger. It numbs. It makes us slow to move, slow to notice, and slow to grow. God knows this, and because He loves us too deeply to leave us unchanged, He shakes what we cling to. Many of life's storms begin long before we notice them. They start as gentle nudges, an ease in the heart, restlessness in the spirit, a sense that something needs to shift. But when we ignore whispers, God sometimes raises the volume. A storm is heaven's way of disrupting the structures we have built around ourselves, not to punish us, not to shame us, but to free us. You may not realize how tightly you've held your comfort until God rips away the illusion. And yes, it will feel violent. It will feel like loss. But often the things we lose in storms are the things that were quietly limiting us. Storms break cages you didn't know you were sitting in. When the winds rise, they expose what was hidden. There is a reason God uses storms throughout Scripture, not just as events, but as metaphors. Storms reveal. Winds tear away the superficial. Rain exposes the cracks. Waves test the strength of what we have built. One truth often buried beneath the calm is this: character isn't revealed in peace. It's revealed in pressure. You don't know how deeply you trust God until you face something you cannot control. You don't know how shallow or strong your faith is until the wind forces you to stand on it. You don't know how much fear rules you until life pushes you to a breaking point. Storms expose idols. Storms expose misplaced hope. Storms expose the foundations we claimed were solid but were actually weak. May think you are fearful until you see the storm reveal courage you didn't know you had. May think you are strong until the storm shows you where you have been leaning on yourself instead of God. May think you are alone till the storm strips away distractions and you begin to feel God's presence in ways you never could during the quiet. Storms do not hide truth. They uncover it, and sometimes the truth they reveal is painful but necessary. The noise of the storm is designed to break your silence. We live in a world that rewards self. To struggle is a weakness. To admit need is vulnerability. To cry for help is failure. So we build walls. We pretend we're fine. We hide our wounds beneath polished smiles. And God watches with compassion and holy urgency. He knows you cannot Heal what you refuse to acknowledge. He knows you cannot ask for help while pretending you don't need it. He knows silence is not strength, it is suffocation. So sometimes the storm grows loud, enough to overpower your internal silence. The noise forces you to face what you've ignored. The chaos forces you to stop pretending. The wind forces you to open your mouth and finally say, I can't do this alone. And the moment you say those words, heaven draws near. God does not shout over the storm, but the storm may shout over your denial so you can finally hear God. The lesson hidden inside the thunder: every storm has a spiritual curriculum. You may not see it at first, because storms blur vision. They create panic, they stir confusion, they distort perspective. But beneath the roar, God is teaching something critical, something too important to express through gentle guidance. Here are some of the lessons storms often carry. You are not in control, but you are not abandoned when your plans collapse. You learn who is truly holding them together. Fear is loud, but God is louder. The wind may scream, but His presence steadies. Faith is not built on answers, it's built on trust. If you had all the clarity you wanted, you would not need the faith you are being shaped to carry. What you lose in the storm is often what was weighing you down. God removes what you would never let go of voluntarily. The storm is not the enemy or perspective. Sometimes the lesson is not about the storm, but about the way you face it. These lessons cannot be delivered through calm. They require shaking, they require interruption, they require volume. The storm is loud because the truth is urgent. The fear you feel is not a sign of failure. It's a doorway. Many people assume that fear means weak faith. But fear is not the enemy of faith. Fear is the raw material from which faith is forged. God is not waiting for you to be fearless. He is waiting for you to choose Him in the middle of fear. Fear is the tension between what you see and what God says. Faith is choosing which one you will trust. When the storm grows louder, fear naturally grows with it. But that fear becomes the space where God invites you to walk deeper, to trust beyond logic, to hope beyond evidence, to believe beyond clarity. Faith does not silence fear. Faith speaks through it. And sometimes the storm must grow louder so your faith has a space to rise. When you hit your limit, you find God's strength. Every storm brings a moment when your inner strength collapses. Your endurance breaks, your courage drains, and your strategies fail. This moment feels like defeat, but spiritually, it is the doorway to breakthrough. Humans discover God's power only when they reach the end of their own. Not before. Never before. You cannot know God as your strength while you still believe you are strong enough. On your own, you cannot know God as your protector while you are still trying to protect yourself through control. You cannot know God as your anchor while you are still holding on to the illusion that you can steady your own ship. The storm pushes you past your limit, not to destroy you, but to introduce you to the God who has none. Heaven often speaks the clearest in the middle of chaos. You might assume God speaks most clearly when life is quiet, but the opposite is often true. In calm, we are distracted. In calm, our minds wander. In calm, we cling to our own logic. But storms focus the soul. In storms, your hearing sharpens. Your awareness heightens. Your dependence deepens. Your vision shifts from earthly to eternal. The storm removes noise, so you can hear the only voice that matters. This is why the storm is loud. To silence all the lesser voices you've been listening to, your doubts, your fears, your pride, your plans, your guilt, your illusions, your assumptions, defenses, all of them must be drowned out so you can finally hear what God has been trying to say all along. What feels like destruction is often construction. We assume storms tear things down, but spiritually, storms often build things that peace never could. They build resilience, they build courage, they build humility, they build discernment, they build surrender, they build intimacy with God. Some truths are too heavy to be placed gently into your hands. They must be hammered into the soul through pressure. Storms do not just remove, they shape, they carve, they forge, they transform. The storm is loud because God is building something that requires force. When the storm ends, you will not be who you were. Every storm changes you. That is the point. God does not waste difficulty. He does not send storms arbitrarily. He does not allow shaking unless something sacred is meant to emerge. You may walk out of the storm slower but wiser, quieter but stronger, humbled but freer, bruised but reborn. You will lose things you thought you needed and discover things you never realized you lacked. The storm strips you, but then it fills you with clarity, with purpose, with depth, with God. And when the last cloud dissolves, you will see with new eyes, not what the storm took, but what the storm made possible. The lesson you learned will guide the rest of your life. The lesson you learn in the storm is not temporary. It becomes part of your spiritual DNA. The loud storms leave permanent marks. A deeper trust, a quieter heart, a stronger faith, a truer identity, a clearer purpose. Storms shape destinies. Some storms are loud because the future God is preparing for you requires more strength, more wisdom, and more surrender than the old version of you possessed. You cannot enter your calling as who you were. You must become who you are meant to be, and storms accelerate that transformation. The storm was not sent to break you but to teach. You're looking back, you will see the truth. God was never far. God was never silent. God was never cruel. God was never punishing you. He was teaching you. He was refining you. He was preparing you. He was strengthening you. He was awakening you. He was shifting you. He was freeing you. The storm was loud because you needed to hear Him, because the lesson mattered too much for Him to whisper. Some truths must be delivered with thunder. The loudest storms become the greatest turning points. When the storm is finally behind you, something profound happens. You become grateful for the storm you once begged God to remove, because now you see. You see the wisdom, you see the growth, you see the healing, you see the freedom, you see the strength, you see the purpose. See God's fingerprints in places you thought were abandoned. The storm that once terrified you becomes the chapter that defines you, because storms are not just events. They are turning points. They are catalysts. They are callings. They are revelations wrapped in chaos. The Storm is loud because the truth it delivers is life-altering. Final thought. The lesson was worth the noise. We'll face storms again. Life guarantees it. But now you know something you didn't know before. Volume is not danger. Volume is importance. When the next storm rises and the winds scream, you won't panic. You'll listen, because now you understand. God doesn't raise his voice to scare you. He raises it to save you. And the storm is loud, Bess. The lesson is important.